We're back. Our thanks again to Paul Stone. Check him out on Twitter, Paul Stone Sports, regular guest here on the show. We love having him. Another regular guest that we are always thrilled when he drops by, especially right here after a holiday. That is Colby Dant. He hosts the College Experience for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I don't know why, Colby, that I always just defer to, host the College Experience. Maybe it's the flagship program because many shows, you're just always on, is what I find.
Yeah, I my thing is, let's do shows, do as much as you can before you kick the bucket, So let's go, Well, my wife sometimes disagrees with my schedule, but I'm trying to always do content. I cover the FCS too and everything, so. And if I had more time, I would do D2 and D3 and NAIA. So, yeah, I try to stay busy,
That is a great way to put it that I should probably steal. My wife sometimes disagrees with my schedule. I think that's accurate. Yeah, very much so. Well, hopefully you had a great Thanksgiving with your wife. Hopefully she, found a few hours to see you in and around these games. It's been a busy time, obviously. And as Brady's mentioned, last Saturday, the regular season and just chaos really throughout the day. Even some chaos last night. The better team won. The heavily favored team won, albeit not nearly covering the number and almost squandering it. I'm talking, of course, about Georgia. We were just talking about the Bulldogs in the break before we came on. And, fortunately, I was on the other side as far as the points, so sweat-free in that respect. But, holy crap, man. Like, this 8 overtimes, which I feel like I need to put in quote fingers because really it's just teams trading off 2-point conversion possessions like a shootout at the end of a hockey game. Like this, it's such an asinine format that is rewarded effectively by maybe good play calling, maybe good execution, maybe just by dumb luck. It's like deciding in a skills competition. I firmly disagree with all of it, and I'm sorry that you didn't hit your money line bet.
Yeah, that was the worst part about all of it. But I'm with you. I when that Penn State Illinois game happened a couple of years ago, that was like the first version of this new 2-point conversion that went to 9 overtimes. But it was just a classic example of, in my opinion, of the rule makers, overdoing it after that A&M LSU game that went to 7 overtimes. We had the college football overtime in place for like almost 30 years. It was like 25 years, and that game happened, and then they overreacted. So we had 1 7 overtime game in 25 years. I think we can just live with that game being, if that happens, it happens. But instead, we overreact to go to this 2-point conversion thing. I will say this, though. I prefer it over the tie they do in the NFL because I've been to a game that tied, and I thought that's about the worst experience. If I go to a game, I want to see an outcome.
Yep, I would agree with you there. I don't think we've had a tie yet this NFL season, knock on wood. Hopefully we will not get one. Colby, you were kind enough to join us last night on In Game Live, Dane Martinez and myself, and I can't recall if we touched on Texas A&M, but certainly the game of the day, one of the big games on the schedule for this Saturday. Underway now, Texas A&M currently driving about midfield. The in-game line has come down. The line came down really, from the get-go. It was as high as 6.5 in favor of Texas, ticked down to 5.5, closed about 4 or 4.5, and now live we've got the Longhorns favored by 3.5. Are you involved in this game? And what is your opinion on it, even if you're not involved financially?
No, I am involved. I'm on A&M. I just took it on the money line, though. I didn't take the points. The logic was really that I've questioned how good Texas has been really all year, although I guess the Michigan win looks better today. But they've faced a lot of backup quarterbacks, and I think they're a solid team, but I just don't know how much to buy into, like, how good are they? And then the fact that this game's been away, I was a guest of the University of Texas A&M a year ago, and going down there, all they were talking about was this game being on the schedule. So I thought, and then to me, getting Mike Elko, I think you give him, Quinn Ewers has been a little dinged up. He's not 100%. You give Mike Elko a game plan around a quarterback that's kind of dinged up. I just thought with the crowd behind it, it just favors A&M there. But we'll see. They need to make sure that Marcel Reed doesn't throw the ball too much, because he is a freshman, he'll make mistakes. So it's a fascinating game, but I thought A&M would be the team that would come out on top. Hopefully that comes to fruition.
Colby, we were just chatting with Paul Stone about the Miami loss today to Syracuse inside the Dome. And look, I don't think on the face of it, like if you just said going into the game, hey, Syracuse at home, the Orange have the ability to beat the Hurricanes, like would that be a shock? I don't know how many people would look at it and say, we're only talking about an 11.5-point spread. Like how could that possibly not happen? But when you go up 3 touchdowns relatively early and then blow it, then it obviously becomes, mystifying. And do you believe, we already know that Miami cost itself an opportunity to play for the conference championship, but do you believe this is the end now? Miami will not be part of the college football playoff, or do the committee, maybe look favorably upon the Hurricanes because there is just so much discretion involved in this process?
Yeah, I kind of think it'll be the end of them, but they do have a name brand. For some reason they were ranked above SMU, which I thought SMU had much better wins and a better loss. So maybe the name brand can get them in there, but yeah, look, I took Syracuse on the money line and they went down 21-0. I was shocked because I just knew Miami's defense had been a problem all year. I think I mentioned this, I think last night on the show with you, Brady. I think it's the worst defense for anyone in the top 20, right? And I thought it's unbelievable that they could run the table. I was on the Yellow Jackets when they upset them. I pretty much have been betting against them every week on the back half of the schedule because I just thought impossible. Like to have that bad of a defense, I thought it was just impossible to run the table. But now they missed out on the championship game. We'll see how they value that, because I think if Clemson wins, hypothetically, in the ACC championship, you have to put SMU in over Miami, I would assume, just because they only had one regular season loss. They didn't play in the extra game. And also, it's going to be a Clemson crowd because it's right out. It's in Charlotte. So it's almost like a road game for SMU. So that means then you get 3 ACC teams in. I kind of highly doubt it. So and they don't have any good wins. That's another thing. Their best win is the Florida win at the beginning of the year. Other than that, like I guess Louisville, but Cal, all these ones are controversial wins too. Like I just don't think they have any top 25 wins as of right now. And that will probably be the downside for them.
Colby, just a few seconds left here before we have to go to break. And I know we've got you for a little bit longer here on the program. This is certainly a sports talk radio topic, and we are more geared towards sports betting. But I have to ask you your opinion. Would you bet on it that Ryan Day, his days are numbered at Ohio State?
I think if he doesn't win a national championship, I do think his days are numbered. Now, he has the opportunity in this 12-team playoff to make amends, but I think if not, he's done.
Much more with Colby Dan, as well as on that game. Again, that was the stunner. That was the shock of the day. Ohio State in that lifeless loss against Michigan at home as a roughly 20-point favorite. We'll discuss that a little bit more. Update you on what's going on across college football tonight and look ahead to the games that are still to come. Again, Dan here, Kannon, Kaufman, hanging out, IGL, College Football Game Day.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Tom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Good long drive out of Texas A&M, but unfortunately it did not lead to points. End zone interception. Texas, a takeaway, at least one in the 20th straight game for the Longhorns. And so now Texas, an opportunity to put the first points on the board. And they are into A&M territory and then some. At the 23, 1st and 10 on the way, 5 minutes to go. Opening quarter, the game is scoreless right now between the rivals. So we will monitor that one. Other games going on. Oregon up 7-3 at the end of one against Washington. That is at home. Indiana, now 9 minutes to go opening half, leading 14-0 against Purdue. Not nearly reflective in what the pregame spread was, obviously. Indiana kind of maybe taking Purdue a little lightly here in this one. Kansas State and Iowa State, that is now 7 apiece after KSU just got on the board. And Nevada passing touchdowns. That's a 7-7 game at UNLV. Only 5 minutes in. Hopefully you took the over. Colby Dant hanging out here with us. And we were just chatting about Ohio State in this game with Michigan. And I just, it's funny. I if there's one thing, Colby, and this includes, picks that you put out on the SGPN website. If there's something that I pride myself on in the gambling space is, at least being aware of what people I respect in the space are on and always just sort of, paying attention. And you're a big dog guy and maybe I'm just forgetting about you earlier, but for the most part, for all the different articles and whatever that I looked up pertaining to OSU and Michigan today, I can't think of one person that I saw taking, forget the money line, the points with Michigan. It was OSU or bust. I saw people taking the Buckeyes and laddering it up to, damn near 30. One of my best friends went to Michigan. I won't place a bet on Michigan football without consulting with him first. And he independently reached out to me, said, I don't know what you're doing today. And it pains me to say it, but my guy got crushed. And here is my parlay showing so, and all the different ways that I am betting against Michigan today. Ohio State, I just felt played lifeless, uninspired, played not to lose as opposed to win, if you get what I mean. It was just so conservative and boring. It felt like a game that I could have coached. I was mystified by what was happening in that game, and they deserved the loss, no doubt about it, but to come out and play at home as a 20-point favorite on your field, your crowd behind you, so much at stake, trying to get to your conference national championship game, and to just be as dead man walking as the Buckeyes were throughout that game, with no real life in them at all until they absolutely had to have it, and by then it was too late. I didn't understand it at all.
Yeah, I took the points, but I didn't think that it would be a money line play. I mean, I did think that, and really all year, and even the offseason, I thought Ohio State had an identity crisis. They had all these stud wideouts, back for, and really Urban Meyer built this thing up where they're just so good at speed. And I just was shocked that they went and got Will Howard and chose him over Cam Ward and Dylan Gabriel. And they kind of modeled themselves after wanting to be Michigan, like the way that they, go and get, both running backs, keeping Travion Henderson, going to get the kid from Ole Miss. It was shocking to me that and you saw it throughout the year, whether it was the Oregon game, whether it was the Nebraska game, or even the Penn State game to a certain extent. They were more of a conservative running team. And it was weird because you have personnel that almost recommends otherwise, with Jeremiah Smith and some of the other guys they have. And why wouldn't you get a better quarterback? Like it was very, I like Will Howard. He's a gamer, but I didn't think he fit the system that they were doing or the talent that they had at the wideout spot. So they've kind of been, to me, a team with a weird identity crisis all year, really, since, like, imagine today's game with Cam Ward. I'd be really surprised if they lost that game today with Cam Ward. And they chose Will Howard to run their offense over Cam Ward, which I just don't understand. And I think a lot of it has to do with Michigan being in their heads. They think they got to be like Jim Harbaugh's Michigan teams. And then there's somewhere in between where they have Jim Harbaugh's Michigan teams and Sherrone Moore's Michigan teams never had the talent on the outside that Ohio State had. Ohio State has not been playing to their strengths this season, in my opinion. You should be throwing the ball more with those wideouts that you have. Know your roster. And to me, it came to bite them again today. And it almost bit them against Nebraska, almost bit them against Penn State. It bit them against Oregon, even though that game was kind of anyone's game. But, I put that all on Ryan Day. I know he's got an unbelievable record, but I don't think they know who they are.
Colby, I want to ask you, you say if Ryan Day and Ohio State do not win the national championship, that they might show him the door there in Columbus. Do they have a shot? And on top of that, who is the best team in the country? Is it Georgia? Is it Oregon? Is it Texas? Is it Ohio State?
Ohio State will certainly have the chance to. I think they probably have the best roster in college football. But once again, their biggest weakness, I think, is at the quarterback spot. And that is something that it's hard to put your money behind. But I don't know. I think I'd certainly not Georgia to me either. I think Georgia was a team that, I still think is a very flawed team. So we'll see how Texas looks the rest of the night. We'll see, because I think they're incredibly talented. I think they probably have the best offensive line in football. But yeah, it's really hard to pigeonhole who's the best team. I took a future on Oregon beginning of the season. There's weeks where I think that's going to look like a mess, and then certain games they look amazing. So it's just this year's college football, it's NIL, I think, in the transfer portal really, making this sport stronger, despite what people say, despite what the coaches complain about on their at their country club, dinners there.
Just keeping an eye on Texas and Texas A&M, and Texas not screwing around. We were looking at 4th and 2 at the A&M 15. I wondered if the Longhorns were going to, play conservative, just take the points. Didn't. Quinn Ewers took it himself and rushed it just short of the 2-yard line, I think. So brand new set of downs here for Texas and probably a touchdown on the way. Much more with Colby Dant when we continue. We'll take a look at some of these games in progress. Oh, look, another Indiana touchdown. 21-0. Signetti's crew all over Purdue.
guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Back with Colby Dan, and I got to correct myself. So this is what I get for watching the game out of the corner of my eye. I see the QB scramble toward the corner and looking like he was out of bounds. Well, one, reach for the pylon. After review, got it. So touchdown Texas. And two, while it was the QB, it wasn't yours. It was Arch Manning running for 15 yards, that scramble and delivering. And so now we have Texas up at A&M 7-0, and the Aggies are now plus 9.5, actually at plus money as well, looking at plus 102 on FanDuel. So, Colby, what did you think of, just that play? And now you're outside of the key number of 10, plus 10.5, minus 114 as Texas getting ready to kick off here. What do you think of the live number and also just the way this game has trended here with 3 minutes to go in the opening quarter?
It's trended exactly what I did not want it to do. I was paranoid of Marcel Reed making turnovers. I was like, I thought Elko would have a game plan with Colin Klein as the OC, the former K-State quarterback, of just doing creative run packages pretty much the whole game, limit the throws, and if there are throws, just have them be very easy reads. But he throws an interception in the red zone on the first drive, which is catastrophic, I think, just long-term for a game. And Texas then scores. Now, I will say I'm curious to know if Arch Manning just came in because, Ewers was dinged up in coming into the game. I wonder if they really just brought Arch Manning in to run that or if Ewers is actually dinged up. But I would take the points still right now. If anything, I think that 9, you said 9 right now, right?
Now it's
10.5. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I would jump on A&M just because the uncertainty still, the momentum of the crowd behind them. But I will say, as someone that has the money line, those tough first two drives, right? That was a tough first two drives because it's like exactly what I needed. I was like, just don't throw turnovers, just don't throw interceptions, Reed. And their first drive, it happened. So kudos to Texas.
You can reinvest it basically 3-1 if you want to.
Yeah, I think I am. As soon as I get a chance, I think I'm going back in on it.
Well, you can get to that here in just a minute. We don't have you for too much longer. But before we let you go, there are 3 more games that are going to kick off later this evening. You've got the Cougar Bowl in Provo, Utah, the BYU Cougars and the Houston Cougars. BYU, of course, a couple of losses in a row. I believe it was last night. You may have told me you liked Houston in that game. But Colby, I got to get your opinion on the final game of the 2024 regular season. And God bless the college football schedule makers. On this Saturday, we have a Hawaii game. New Mexico visiting Oahu. They will take on the Rainbow Warriors. They are laying 3.5 points, which seems a little short to me. What do you expect out of this one?
Well, first, the over seems to be in a terrible spot. At 62.5. I'm sorry. The under would be a terrible spot. The over would be what you want to play, because New Mexico's defense has been atrocious all year. Hawaii's defense is a little stingy. Dennis Thurman came in from the Rex Ryan, Jets there back in the day. I actually think that's the better play. I actually like Hawaii to stay within the 3.5 on the island. I know they just fired their athletic director, and that seems very controversial. Like the island loved him, but I think Timmy Chang's going to get his guys up. And New Mexico lives on the edge. They're a crazy team to me. Like they're going to score a lot of points, but they'll give up points. They'll do fake punts. They play absolutely wild in year one. Bronco Mendenhall. I think Hawaii on the island can stay within that number, maybe even win it outright. But New Mexico is playing for a bowl, so I think that motivation's there. But I still think this is like a 31-28 type of game or a 42-39 type of game, something crazy. Give me Hawaii in the points.
What are your expectations for the Cougar Bowl, Houston BYU?
Yeah, I think that's actually. I think you got me mistaken because I didn't say like last night. I don't think we talked about that game, but I definitely think it's one of the harder games to project. Willie Fritz's team has been all over the place. I took him 17 points on the money line against TCU. They cash. I'm thinking, this team can make a bowl, and then you bet on them the next week. They look awful. BYU's got a lot of pressure on them that they're not accustomed to. I will take Houston in the points. But I still say that's one of the ones I like least on the card tonight.
Well, we are all unified on A&M, so we'll be rooting for that comeback together and all the way back just to cash that money line ticket for Colby, who is well on his way, along with Brady, at cashing Travis Hunter to win the Heisman. My congrats in advance to the both of you, because my God, you want to talk about a heavy favorite right now. He got in at 80-1? Colby Dan,
80-1
Podcast Network. Thanks, bud.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Our thanks to both Paul Stone and most recently Colby Dant. A lot of great college football expertise. Brady Kannon, Adam Kaufman hanging out with you. If you are watching on SportsGrid TV, we appreciate you. SportsGrid Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 159. Our thanks to you as well. Again, hopefully everybody had a great, restful Thanksgiving holiday break and continues on throughout the weekend where you are just surrounded by leftovers, turkey sandwiches, and loads of football, including a whole bunch of NFL tomorrow. There are already 4 games that have happened this week. The 3 on Thursday, the 1 on Friday. We'll talk a little bit about those and, of course, preview all the remaining games that we have in front of us on Sunday, and if we have time, Monday Night Football as well. So there's going to be a lot of football here in the hours to come, as you would expect on In-Game Live College Football Game Day. And always love, Brady, when our listeners, viewers interact with us on social media, which, by the way, you can do. Brady is on Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer. I am there at Adam M. Kaufman. You can find us both linked right on the SportsGrid account at SportsGrid. Easy enough to remember on X, if that's what people want to call it these days. But how about this? Pat Kennedy writes us that OSU game was a combo issue. 1, yes, OSU was lifeless. But 2, Michigan sucked all year, and this was their Super Bowl. I've mentioned before, I hate these scenarios. That was Browns against Pittsburgh. Crappy team going all out to win 1 game to prove nothing. Did you feel the same way?
Well, I mean, it's a pretty good assessment. But, you know, hey, hats off to Michigan, man. I mean, that's what, if that game's your Super Bowl, and boy, they pulled it off. But, you know, like you said, how can that game not also be somewhat of a Super Bowl for Ohio State? It's Ohio State, Michigan. For God's sakes, they call it the game. And I think Ryan Day, you know, is at fault. You know, now he's lost 4 in a row. And I'm not going to fault him last year. Michigan went on to win a national championship. And maybe he was, you know, not supposed to win a few other of those contests or what have you. But a 20-point favorite, and I know there's been other times when he's had better talent than Michigan. You could argue he had better talent last year than the Wolverines. We know the talent, it's just reloads every year at Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, the wide receivers that come out of this school are nuts, that find their way into the NFL and are all drafted in the first round, it seems like. So, no, I don't think you can fault Michigan or the fact that it's a lousy team showing up one night, the Cleveland Browns analogy there. First of all, that was a horrible scheduling spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers in that Thursday night game. A short week, they go on the road in division, bad weather, off of a game against the Baltimore Ravens. It didn't matter much who they played that week. That was going to be incredibly difficult, and they still almost pulled it off, did the Pittsburgh Steelers. In this case, you know, Michigan has played some decent games, but to get up in this game as a 20-point underdog and knock off Ohio State, no, I can't fault them at all or say this was ugly or something. You know, hey, Ohio State blew that, and Michigan, to their credit, really made the most of what was, their Super Bowl, their biggest game of the season.
So Ohio State obviously let a lot of people down, including me today, by the way, who made the mistake. I put this big parlay together. I won't get. Man, I was on Ohio State in so many ways, but at the base, at the core, like even if they weren't going to cover the number, fine. Like at least just freaking win. Just Al Davis, as you like to say, just win, baby, win. Just win.
Right.
all I needed. And, that like the parlay was dead before it even started because that was the first leg of a multi-leg, and it was the worst part of it is I should have left well enough alone, Brady, because it was mostly basketball. It was mostly NBA tonight.
Oh.
That was, that was like the only football leg. It was just a little sweetener. Like, OSU, everyone says OSU is going to cream them. I'll just throw in the Buckeyes on the money line just for, a little bit extra. And nope, obviously that went south. But in terms of favorites in the top 25 today, SMU did what it was supposed to do, obviously. Tennessee, Notre Dame,
pretty darn good
Penn
team,
State.
the SMU Mustangs, man. I wouldn't be surprised
Absolutely.
if they wreak some havoc in the playoff. I've been very impressed with them this season.
Bama covered the number today, 2-touchdown win at home against Auburn, 28-14, and a game that was, really it was never in doubt. That was one that honestly I like in sort of comparing and contrasting, because I saw a lot of people on Alabama today as well pregame, and that one had me more nervous than Ohio State did. Like, to me, that game was such a formality. There was just no way in my mind that the Buckeyes were going to lose that game. Alabama, I could have seen losing today. Even in Tuscaloosa, this team has just been, despite the record, 9-3 is a good record, but I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, maybe you disagree, maybe our listeners disagree, but I haven't felt that Alabama has played like a 9-3 team, has felt like a 9-3 team. And so I looked at that game with Auburn today and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll bet Bama to cover because it feels like the square thing to do, and I could see it. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, anyone going to be shocked if they lose outright? I won't. And, so I was talking out of both sides of my mouth, obviously. But when it came to, I guess I say that just because if I was sort of throwing together a whole bunch of favorites that I like today in a money line parlay, I wasn't going to include Alabama. And I didn't include Alabama because I was like, yeah, I'll play it on its own. But as far as just sort of those money line odds, like, maybe they screw it up.
I kind of felt the other way. And not because I'm high on Alabama and low on Ohio State or anything like that. I just felt that was not a good spot for Auburn and a pretty good spot for Alabama off of a loss to Oklahoma. And I think there's a real disparity. I don't think Auburn's very good. And I didn't see them really having much of a puncher's chance. Like Michigan hasn't been awful. Okay. They've been competitive in a number of games. I know it's obviously a down year for them. But like our listener there, Pat Kennedy said, that this was their Super Bowl. It didn't really feel that way for me with Auburn. They just, I don't know. They didn't seem to have an identity this year. It's been a bad year for Auburn. So I felt Alabama was going to be able to take advantage of that situation. Whereas here, this game for me was all about the moment. And no, I didn't expect Michigan to win outright at all. But I thought they might hang inside this 17.5, which became 20.5 or what have you. I thought they might lose by 11 or 9 or 7 or something like that. But because I felt that they're a better team than Auburn was, I felt, and had more of a puncher's chance in this matchup. So I wasn't surprised by the Alabama result.
Some other favorites earlier that got the job done. Arizona State handled Arizona. That one wasn't even close.
That was
49-7.
Yeah.
Yeah. But especially just how distributed it was. I mean, quarters 18, 21, then nothing, then 14 again. Just a balanced demolition. You had Missouri hold off Arkansas 28-21. Illinois took 10-point win at Northwestern, and these games that are going on right now, UNLV has taken a 10-7 lead against Nevada late first. Early second, Iowa State driving inside the 10-yard line, but already up 10-7 against Kansas State. Texas back with the ball early second, still a 7-0 lead at A&M. Oregon looking for more inside the Washington 10 now and leading 21-6. And actually that was, pardon me, that was the extra point. So 21-6 after the touchdown. And then Indiana, feel like I'm talking about the Hoosiers the same way that we were talking about the Fighting Irish last week, where just every time you look down, there's a touchdown. 28-0. Indiana is now leading, and still the first half, almost halftime, but still the first half. Indiana well on its way to covering that number and bouncing back from its only loss so far. And Signetti at the podium question whether or not his team deserved to be part of the college football playoff. You might see granted Purdue sucks, but this might be a little bit of a statement running up the score kind of position here for Indiana today. But it is a fascinating end of the regular season, obviously. We'll come back. We'll talk more about it. Expectations for the college football playoff and so much more. Lots of NFL talk on the way and Survivor updates as well. That got a little sweaty over there at Circa, didn't it? We'll be back.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Back here on In-Game Live, college football game day on SportsGrid. Brady, Adam, we have C and Ajad coming up in a little while. Help us talk through the NFL and expectations for Sunday. But just again, quick updates. Texas on the verge of scoring yet again, halfway through the second quarter, 8.5 to go. Already up 7-0 at Texas A&M. So yeah, this one, if you are on the A&M side, as I am, as Brady is, as both of our guests, Paul and Colby are, this thing is going sideways in a hurry. Iowa State 17-7 lead now against Kansas State. 10 minutes to go, opening half in that one. And of course, Houston, BYU, as far as other top 25 teams, BYU fits that criteria. That is still about hour and a half away.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to these games, Adam. I think the late night slate, and I'm already interested in the UNLV outcome. I'd love to see them get another shot against Boise State in the Mountain West Conference Championship. And that would kind of be a scenario like, okay, you beat us earlier this year, but now we're going to meet up again when it really counts. And UNLV was competitive in that matchup against Boise State earlier this year as well. That ought to be a really good game. Hopefully they will meet up again. I think that would be a very good contest. I believe Boise State was I think it was less than a touchdown favorite the last time they met, and that's probably about the same. I'm guessing maybe a 6.5 point favorite, something like that, maybe 4.5. I'm not good at making lines in college football, but I think they would be a relatively short favorite. I'd love to see that rematch come to fruition. Of course, I'm interested in Florida State. I keep seeing this in-game number go to 24.5 on the Gators, and I don't see any score on the board. Are you seeing anything there between Florida and Florida State?
Not that is showing on the book that I am looking at right now, but I can check some of the more traditional apps, if you will, that give us good score updates. I'm scrolling here real quick. Florida is up 14-0 at halftime.
Yeah, there's a glitch in the FanDuel board here that shows all the live scores. Yep. And okay, so it's at halftime. Well, maybe that's part of it, but I'm not even seeing 14-0. So that's good. I felt like Florida State was going to be able to show up in that in-state rivalry game right there. I thought 17. It was 16.5. It went to 17. There was money coming in on the Gators, but I thought that might be too many. But I tell you what, this is, and you also look at what Florida has done as of late. They upset LSU in the Swamp. Very next week, they upset Ole Miss in the Swamp, and now they go on the road to Tallahassee. I thought this was a possible letdown spot, but so far not the case with a 14-0 advantage through half the game.
Some of these other rivalry games, Virginia Tech is up 10-0 at home against Virginia. That is early in the second quarter. James Madison 14-0 leading Marshall. That is early in the second as well. UNLV a 10-7 advantage, as we have mentioned, against Nevada. That is the start of the second. And as you mentioned earlier, we got a few games still to come, obviously, between Houston, BYU, 10:15 Eastern, Air Force, San Diego State, about 15 minutes after that. And just before midnight, or 11 o'clock Eastern anyway, but still early evening for you, my friend, out there out west, New Mexico and Hawaii there on the island, where Hawaii plus 3.5. That'll be a nice way at the end of it all to just sit back, have a drink in hand, unwind with your Saturday night, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who knows? I might even get involved, and I think I would go the direction that Colby recommended and play the over, because he's absolutely right about New Mexico. They can certainly score a lot of points. They can also give up a lot of points. I think if you're playing the over in this game, you're relying on Hawaii. It's going to be all about the Rainbow Warriors. If they show a pulse here on offense and don't play a lot of defense, then yeah, I think this game will go easily over the total. I'm already seeing 61.5. I mean, there's going to be a point. You know how it is. I mean, you might want to jump on it now, because as these games wind down and we get closer to that Hawaii game, the late night bettors, the get even or get even deeper crowd is probably going to be playing the favorite in the over, I would guess. You might see that total tick up. But, Air Force and San Diego State is an interesting one too, Adam. Air Force laying points on the road. Air Force lost its first 7 games of the season, and they were one of the worst teams in college football. And now all of a sudden they've won 3 in a row, and they've kind of found the running game that they've been famous for so many years. San Diego State may have replaced Air Force as the worst team in Division I football. They are bad. They have lost 5 in a row. And here they are at home, senior night, what have you, down there in San Diego. And they're an underdog to lowly Air Force. It was lowly Air Force earlier this year. I think I could probably only lay the points with the Falcons here. And they could become bowl eligible as well. And we talk about these motivating factors, not necessarily predictive of winning football games, but it looks like that's the case for Indiana. They need style points, and it looks like they're putting some up there right now.
Anything to come out of today? Obviously, there was a lot, so that's not even the right way to ask the question. But as you look ahead and attempt to sort of project ahead with the college football playoff, it just sort of feels like, 1, chaos, and 2, some of these outcomes and these debates of, how many SEC teams, can you have a 3-loss team? How many 3-loss teams to, there's going to be, as there always is, it's just, was with 4 before, now it's a dozen. The amount of discretion from the committee because of the lack of, clear specifics that people can depend upon when it comes to guaranteeing teams, all the way down their spots in. It's a fascinating dynamic that we're getting ready to see unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously Oregon is not in trouble. I think Ohio State will be fine. Georgia is interesting because you have the SEC championship. I think Texas is fine. Georgia, I think, could be on the outside looking in if Texas beats them in the SEC championship game. Tennessee is another SEC team that will be maybe on the bubble. But I'm looking forward to it. Like Paul Stone said, I'm all for having, the more the merrier. The fact that we've got 12 teams in this tournament now, I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Quinn Ewers passing touchdown for Texas. So you had Arch Manning run for one, Ewers pass for one, 14-0, Longhorns leading at A&M.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We are back here, Brady and Adam. We have C and Ajad joining us top of the hour to help us talk through some NFL. Busy Sunday ahead, some really interesting games. But I'll tell you what, some interesting games that happened on Thanksgiving as well as Black Friday. And if you had a money line favorites parlay, well, that worked out for you. But if you played everyone to cover the spread, that let you down in curious places. For instance, the Detroit Lions somehow, some way, not covering the number, not only not covering the number, damn near losing to the Chicago Bears, who reacted to firing their coach. Matt Eberflus, given the gate, 23-20. Lions took that game to start off everyone's Thanksgiving. The Giants, who, put up a little bit of a fight in the fourth quarter, not enough to cover the 3.5, unfortunately for me. 27-20, Cowboys took care of business there. The Cowboys really have no business being favored against anybody, I don't think, but I guess the Giants were just the perfect opponent because the Cowboys got the job done relatively comfortably at that. The Packers, I thought the Dolphins were going to put up more of a fight in that contest. Took the dog in that one. Didn't work out for me because Miami decided not to show up until the second half. 30-17, Green Bay won, and yet another home team got the job done just barely. Kansas City 19-17 to improve to 11-1 against a Raiders team that, like so many opponents of the Chiefs so far this year, Brady, had an opportunity to win, slip through their fingers. And this one particularly interesting because, we'll talk more about this later. Circa Survivor, this is a, 2 weeks in one, basically. You have week 13A, week 13B. You have to play one to advance to the next. And so everyone had to grab a team, and everyone who was remaining of the 54 live participants going into the week survived by the skin of their teeth, in large part because of, again, KC, the most popular selection, more than half the field, 29 entries. And my God, this is a game the Raiders should have won. Those people, I hope they had a nice, relaxing Friday night after what transpired yesterday.
That was absolutely crazy. And I'll tell you, for me, it was disgusting. I just don't understand how that happened. There was a little bit of weirdness to it. The old conspiracy theory that the referees, try to find a way to have the Chiefs succeed. There was a little bit of that stench in the air. It was just very weird how that game ended. But yeah, Circa Survivor, the 29 entries that were on the Chiefs, oh my goodness. I mean, they were basically tearing up their ticket at that point. Let's not forget Daniel Carlson, who I believe has probably replaced Justin Tucker as the best kicker in the NFL, missed 3 field goals in that game. And he was going to be set up for what was probably going to be about a 45-yarder or so. You don't expect him to miss that one. But boy, that was really bad. I just hated the way the Raiders put up an incredible effort. They were rushing the football down the throats of Kansas City. My partner, Mike Pritchard, on the Las Vegas Football Contest show brought up a great point why the Raiders might have a puncher's chance in that game, because Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense didn't necessarily know how to prepare for this game. Aiden O'Connell hadn't played quarterback in a long time. A new offensive coordinator, new running backs. There was a lot of new faces in that Raider offensive attack, and it kind of played out looking like that the Chiefs didn't know how to defend this new version of Las Vegas. But by the skin of their teeth indeed. And I think the Circa owner, Derek Stevens, was rooting for the favorites to win and have his Survivor field extend into the second half of week 13, week 13B, if you will, because he posted a ticket of his own that he placed a bet, a 4-team money line parlay on the 4 favorites, $25,000 to pay out nearly $90,000. So he cashed that ticket and gets his wish of all 54 entries surviving into the second half of week 13 as well.
We should have some data within the next hour, maybe sooner even, as to where people went for the Sunday, Monday action, and really interested to see it because it feels like there might be some obvious spots, but maybe not so fast. We'll get into all of that with Sia Najad when he joins us coming up in just a few minutes. But again, everyone advances. So that is 54 live entries still in Circa Survivor. I don't think we're going to see anyone who forgot to make a pick this time around. So at least
not.
There's that. Let's seriously hope not. More from Brady and I when we come back. NFL on the way and consistent college football updates as well.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. with 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady, Kannon, and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we are back. We've got a couple hours left here, which means we are roughly, not quite halfway home. And that excites us, honestly, because it means we have so much more that we want to deliver to you in the world of football content and betting advice. We haven't even really touched on the NFL yet with a fair enough size slate. Not a big, meaty slate, not as big as usual with the holiday weekend and 4 games already under our belts, but still fair amount of action coming up on your Sunday, less than 24 hours away, obviously. And here to help us break it down is CNA Jad, Monumental Sports Network, CBS Sports Line. He's all over the place. He is on Twitter at CNA Jad. That is NEJAD. Sia, how are you? Welcome. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving break.
Thanks. There's no break for me. I'm always doing shows, but that's because I love it. I mean, let's be honest. The Thursday slate was really exciting for me. Did a lot of shows then, did a lot of shows yesterday. And we've got, like you said, Adam, we've got kind of a full slate coming up because no bye weeks. So we just get to see every team play, which is pretty cool.
I think, well, there are a few spots that are really interesting coming up tomorrow, but where I actually want to start is Sunday Night Football, and that is the Niners and the Bills, or pardon me, Sunday night. First half second, I was thinking it was Monday. Sunday Night Football. This is what holidays do to you, Sia. Niners and Bills, and the Bills are 6-point favorites. You've got a variety of narratives in this one. For one, potential weather concerns. Obviously, those benefit Buffalo versus the warm weather Niners coming over from across the country. You've got, an engagement narrative. Multiple Bills players, including Josh Allen, getting engaged during their bye week. Congrats to everyone involved, obviously, but also a Niners team that is, you want to talk about desperation. I mean, in true need of a win in order to have, real potential playoff hopes there in the NFC West. It's a jam-packed, fascinating conference, certainly far from being decided in terms of not only who wins it, but whether we see multiple teams from that division get into playoff spots as well. But it will involve a little bit of leapfrogging. But, Brock Purdy, his injury status, Christian McCaffrey, and, the up and down play from him since he has returned from his injury. So all across the board here, what are the expectations for this game?
This is interesting. You mentioned injuries. I mean, we know about some of the offensive injuries on the Buffalo side. It's the defensive injuries for the Niners that I'm most concerned with. But I also think that this spread of 6 points, and obviously we have to monitor the weather and the snow. We know that's kind of an issue here. But the total here, 44.5, it's not like super low. I think 6 points is too much. You're right. This is a desperate Niners team. And I don't necessarily want to go down narrative street for this one. But if Brock Purdy is going to be playing, and we're going to get most of their guys healthy with your Christian McCaffreys and your Kittles and your Debos and Juwan Jennings, I think they have enough to offer. I mean, again, defensively, it's a problem, but I think the Bills have maybe one or two, because they're one or two weapons down, I think the Niners can at least keep pace with the Buffalo Bills. So I don't have a strong play on this one, no official play for me, but I would take the points with the Niners here.
We're going to work backwards, I guess, here, Sia, because I'm going to a game that's low on the card as well. Of course, Adam started with Sunday night, a game that will, again, not at the top of the betting card for Week 13, but more towards the bottom. In Baltimore, the Ravens hosting the Philadelphia Eagles, certainly one of the most intriguing games of the entire weekend. And it really has me puzzled. I'm curious to what your opinion is. I made this game a pick'em. I mean, I think these teams are very similar to one another. They have great offenses. They have a great running back in the MVP race. They have great quarterbacks. The biggest difference here is probably that Philadelphia has the better defense, yet they're a 3-point underdog. I thought this game would be closer to a pick'em. What are your thoughts on Philadelphia and Baltimore?
Even though it hasn't been like your classic Ravens, I do fear them a little bit late in the season at home. Like last year, we saw them really stomp on some teams in that position. But Brady, I agree with you. First of all, when this was +3, I mean, I think this is still 3 in a lot of places. I've noticed it's ticked down to 2.5 in other places. It's too many points. I mean, I'm just kind of I'm kind of puzzled by this. I would take it at 3. It would be a stay away for me at 2.5. I just no play. But if you can get the Eagles +3, I agree. This should probably be pick 'em. Again, I do fear Baltimore this time of year at home. But the Eagles are clearly the top. Well, there's 2 teams in the NFC that you really got to worry about. It's the Detroit Lions, as long as they can stay moderately healthy, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles. And in the AFC, the Baltimore Ravens have been a little up and down. I'll take the points here.
What's the game that stands out to you? Obviously, I feel like the 2 games that Brady and I have thrown at you, first off, are the real name recognition games, the games that everybody's talking about. There are some that have really tight spreads, obviously, across Sunday. What's the game that you're most looking forward to, maybe more so as a bettor than a viewer?
Yeah, as I scan the board, I think the one that really catches my eye, I mean, I'm sure we'll end up talking about Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, but the Chargers and the Falcons, I just don't think people know what to do with that game. Chargers, coming off a loss, not looking very good, and there is a narrative out there, and there should be, that they haven't played a lot of great teams, and obviously when they did, they lost. The Falcons, though, not a very good team either, in my opinion, in spite of the fact that they might win the NFC South, but they're coming off a bye. Chargers got to come to the East Coast. I think there's a lot of narratives going each way here, and honestly, I think most people will say, well, the Chargers are the better team. I'm taking the Chargers. I got a sneaking suspicion that the Falcons are going to end up pulling this one out. But my favorite play in that game, other than some props that I like, I did lock in Bijan Robinson over 72.5 rushing yards and Justin Herbert over 1.5 touchdown passes. I like the over here. I don't think either of these defenses are going to stop the other. And as much as we think the Chargers and Harbaugh, great defense, that's not really true. I mean, first of all, we got to look at the quarterbacks that they've played. But then you look at the rush defense, they're allowing almost 5 yards per carry. Even if you take out last week, it still wasn't a good rush defense prior to that. It's okay, but it's not a great rush defense. I think Bijan Robinson, I think Drake London, Darnell Mooney appears that he's healthy. Coming off a bye, I think the Falcons are going to be able to move the ball. I'd say the same about the Chargers. I think we're looking at 50 points or more in this one.
Yeah, I really don't disagree with anything you said there, Sia. And I kind of lean to the Falcons as well. Even though I made the Chargers a 3-point favorite, that was my initial reaction. And I was a little bit shocked that it opened up at 1.5. There were some 2s out there for a minute. But the situation is really tough for the Chargers. And you're right. Their defense really is probably not as good as what the numbers will tell you. They gave up a lot of points to the Bengals in the second half. They gave up a lot of points to the Ravens. They're starting to play some good offenses now that they haven't faced in the first part of the year. And Atlanta's a pretty darn good offense as well. So, yeah, and the over sounds like a good idea as well. What do you think about the Seahawks and the Jets? I think everybody is afraid to bet the Jets, and all of a sudden people are falling in love with the Seahawks again because they've won a couple in a row. But my classic scenario that I like to bet against is the home underdog that wins outright, that is now cast into the role of road favorite, and that's exactly what is the situation for Seattle. I'm going to back the Jets here and go against that road favorite in this situation.
Well, first of all, situationally, you take what you just said, Brady, and then you add the fact that the Seahawks have to come over to play a 1 o'clock game on the East Coast, and the fact that the Jets are coming off a bye, it does not bode well for the Seattle Seahawks from a situational standpoint. And I think that's why you're seeing this line kind of like rebound a little bit back towards the Jets. Brady, I can't do it. Okay, so here's the thing. About the Seahawks. Yeah, they won a couple games. Maybe that's, division opponents and things of that nature. You could maybe write those off a little bit. But what we have seen from this defense since the bye is that it's actually been like what we thought the Mike McDonald defense would look like. Could be smoke and mirrors, could be a small sample size. But good news for the Seahawks, you put them up against the Jets, who haven't done anything. It's a locker room that I'm not even sure like what's going on in that locker room. I can't imagine there's a lot of confidence. There's a lot of bravado. There's a lot of let's go out and win this game compared to other locker rooms. Can't do it. I got to take the Seahawks money line here.
Guys, Aaron Rodgers, like his predecessor, and I don't mean with the Jets, has gone full Brett Favre at this stage of his career. The will he, won't he? Where's he going to play? Is he going to play? Reports that he wants to play but wants to play somewhere else. I can't wait to watch this team get clobbered by the Seahawks. There is no other way to bet this game. It's absolutely Seattle.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We have CNH out here with us. We're talking NFL, getting you ready for Sunday. Brady, Adam, and all of you out there. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. We thank you for hanging out. Matt, everyone behind the scenes. Appreciate everyone for making this show possible, obviously, and hopefully we can all win some money together, both tonight and tomorrow, and see another spot. There are just so many. Really, like, this is a red zone dream. I can't wait to just be in front of red zone tomorrow, play it game by game. But like, there are so many spots that there aren't too many of these games I would want to sit and watch in full. But when I have the ability to bounce between them, you know, it is really fascinating across the board, including Buccaneers, Panthers. Now, I had felt like maybe last week this was going into the game against Kansas City. Maybe this is the last time that people will talk themselves into, oh, Bryce Young, he's playing a little bit better. Let's invest in the Panthers with the points again. Nah, they're going to get smashed by the Chiefs. Of course they are. Nope, barely another KC win, 3-point win. And so the Panthers, once again, Should we consider them as dogs? They're home. They're getting 6. Buccaneers, they're coming in. They're not great. Baker Mayfield, he's going to see a little bit of pressure. They're still not 100% healthy. Mike Evans, yeah, he looked pretty good. Bucky Irving, he's got a favorable matchup. But why can't the Panthers keep it close? Adam Thielen's there. He's a security blanket for Bryce Young. And look at what, Chuba Hubbard is capable of. Are we going to talk ourselves into the Panthers again, or do we take the Bucs to cover the number?
This one's really tough. I think we take the Bucs. Oh, excuse me. I think we take the Panthers to cover the number here. What's so funny is Adam Thielen at, 34 years old now? Like, he came in, he had some impactful plays, but I got to give it to Bryce Young. He's doing it with guys like Jatavion Sanders, who I know is going to be out for this game, but David Moore, who nobody's ever heard of, had 10 targets and 81 yards last week. Xavier Legette finally looks like a guy who has some explosiveness and can impact a game. I think 6 points at home is a little too much, especially with the confidence that Carolina's coming in with. I like Tampa Bay. I like some props on Tampa Bay. I already bet Mike Evans over 60.5 receiving yards. I think it's 64.5 now. I still like that, but I think 6 is too many ultimately. I will say this. I think the secondary for Tampa is getting a little bit healthier, so that doesn't necessarily bode well for Carolina. But again, division game, Carolina's starting to play well. Bryce Young at least looks like he's a slightly below average quarterback, which, oh, by the way, is a compliment. I think there's a lot going for Carolina here. I will say this. Bucky Irving's going to have a game. Mike Evans is going to have a game. They're going to be able to move the ball, but I think Carolina moves it enough. This is a 46.5 point total. I think Carolina puts up some points, ends up losing this game by 4 or 5.
It's also interesting to ask, of all people, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are a pretty decent team, certainly a good offense, to be a road favorite of nearly a touchdown for 2 weeks in a row. Do we really want to give the Buccaneers that much credit? We were talking about the Arizona Cardinals off air. They had won 4 in a row, and then they were forced to pause by taking a bye week. And I love to bet on those teams against those teams on the other side of the bye week, because all that momentum, everything they got going, is forced to come to a screeching halt. And sure enough, they lost to the Seattle Seahawks. Now they go on the road, where they have traditionally been a very tough out. We saw them win at Miami not too long ago on the road. They're at Minnesota. And I think Minnesota has been regressing a little bit. It was a few weeks back that they lost to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, since then, they've won 4 in a row. Okay, they beat the Jaguars. They beat the Titans. They struggled against the Bears. They really haven't beaten anybody to speak of. And I think the Titans or the Cardinals are somebody. I think they're a decent team. Haven't heard a lot of talk about this game. Catching 3 and that very key hook. Who do you side with here, Sia?
Yeah, this is a really tough one, because this line, the money's starting to come in on Arizona, which probably, I shouldn't say starting, all week it's come in on Arizona, I believe. I even see it at 3 in some places, but 3.5 in most places, Brady. At 3.5, I feel like I have to take Arizona, because Minnesota, in spite of their record, is wilting, like you said. And Arizona. So here's the thing about Arizona. If they were playing Seattle at home or in a dome last week instead of at Seattle in some conditions, I think they would have had a much better game. I think the good news for them, in spite of the fact that they do have to come over to I don't know, Minnesota's not exactly the East Coast, but they got to travel. They're traveling in. They're going to a place and they're going to meet good conditions. I do think that helps Kyler Murray and company. I think 3.5 is too many. At 3, it would be a stay away for me, but at plus 3.5, I like Arizona here.
You know what, Adam? Let me jump in here again real quick. Yeah. A couple other things that are very interesting. Minnesota, the first mobile quarterback that they have faced all season was last week in Caleb Williams, and really gave them a tough time. Maybe Kyler Murray is a similar problem for them. The other thing that's very interesting is they played Seattle last week. This is a real sandwich. They play Seattle at home next week. So maybe that can build the case for Minnesota if you like that side. Interesting scheduling spot for both Seattle and Arizona.
See, I'll mention this. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it. We don't have a lot of time here left in this segment. But the Texans at the Jaguars. Now, if it were Mac Jones for Jacksonville, there's no universe where you wouldn't lay the 3.5 with the Texans. And candidly, I would still lay the number with Trevor Lawrence in the expectation that he's going to play, in part because I just think even still he is a woefully overrated quarterback on what is flat out a bad team. I mean, I have preached this from the top of the mountains for as long as I can remember. And so Texans, even though they have not nearly inspire the confidence week to week that they did last year during Stroud's rookie year, I still think this is a terrific spot for Houston to get a comfortable win.
Adam, you and me were on the anti-Trevor Lawrence train when he was at Clemson, when he was coming out in the draft. I made some things that sounded like a joke, but starting to come true because people were calling him generational. I said he was closer to Blaine Gabbert than generational. That's an exact quote. So I'm glad there are other people that we can kind of swim with in these waters. Either way, this is an interesting one. I mean, the Texans are clearly not the team that a lot of people thought they were going to be coming into the season. And for the record, I didn't think they were going to be a great team either, but I also thought the Colts were going to win the division. That take is not exactly working out. With all that said, I think the Texans probably rebound in this spot. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is again, a below average quarterback at best. And I just think the Texans are ripe to actually put it together. This is the game they put it together. I think they actually cover this number.
We have more with C and Ajad when we come on back. More NFL games. Believe it or not, we haven't hit them all. We've hit the best ones, but we have more to come. And sometimes in those dark and grimy spots are where you really find the winners.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We are back in-game live college football game day. Just a quick check-in on some of the top 25 scores. And we'll do more college on the way, obviously. Indiana pummeling Purdue 31-0 and with the ball and very nearly in the red zone again. That is midway through the third quarter. Oregon is doubling up. There you go, touchdown. 37 Indiana now, 38 on the way. Oregon is doubling up Washington at the half, 28-14 Texas, 17-0 at Texas A&M. I want my bet back. That's almost at halftime. 24-14 Iowa State leading Kansas State nearly at the break. UNLV all over Nevada, 24-7, 90 seconds to go, opening half there. We have C and Ajad hanging out with us, talking some NFL. And a game that is near and dear to your heart and close to you, geographically as well. That is Titans at the Commanders, whereas Washington is a 6-point favorite looking to bounce back from an embarrassing loss last time out. I don't think anybody would argue that. And a team that, I don't know, Jaden Daniels, obviously, and what this offense was doing for so many weeks was, I mean, he was just he was going to be the offensive rookie of the year, and there was nobody even in his company, let alone a Bo Nix and what he is doing with the Broncos now. And he's tailed off. Now, whether you want to pinpoint rookie wall, rib injury, just some inconsistency that has crept in on account of the opponents that he's faced, label it however you will. Whenever a team sees Will Levis and the Titans on the other side, that is just, to me, it screams ripe for the bounce back. What about you?
I would have said that 2 weeks ago about Will Levis. I'm starting to worry that Will Levis is at least a competent quarterback. I mean, listen, we're all waiting. If you're playing I almost said the Texans. They beat the Texans last week. If you're playing the Titans, you're kind of waiting for that Will Levis moment. But I mean, I got to give it to the Titans. They gave it to C.J. Stroud and company. They gave the ball away several times and still managed to win that game on the road. I was really shocked that this line opened at 6. I thought it would get bet down to like 5, 4.5, and it looks like it's just right at 6 still. It got bet down, and then some Washington money. It looks like it came in. This line's too big. I don't know about the wall. I don't know what's going on with Jaden Daniels. I do think the injury had a big impact. There's certainly a narrative about Cliff Kingsbury and how his offenses get figured out. 6 points is too many. This line should have probably opened and closed at 4. I would take the Titans here.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Siad. It's just I fall into this trap that the number looks juicy on the Titans every week, but it's only worked twice. And I don't know if I want to go there, but I agree with you. That's the side I would have to take here. Let's get to the Monday Nighter. I think this one is pretty interesting. Are we all falling too much in love with the Denver Broncos here? They're a favorite of 5.5 points. We know Cleveland is not a very good team, but they have extra rest. They come off of that win, impressive victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. This one in the Mile High City where they're really starting to get the fever there. They love this Broncos club and think they have a good chance to make the playoffs. Where do you land on this one?
This seems like, the public play, the chalky play, but I got to lay the points with the Denver Broncos, even if it creeps up to 6, which is where it is in some places. I just don't trust Jameis Winston. I mean, I think that's the bottom line for me. I love Jameis Winston. We all love Jameis Winston. He puts a smile on our face. But against this Denver defense, that's where I really don't trust. I mean, the Pittsburgh game was a little different because of the elements. I think you're walking into Mile High here. I think Denver's going to take care of business. And I would agree with anybody that says Bo Nix is a pretty good quarterback, and he's got some receivers that he can count on. Run game is a little sketchy, but I think this is a lower scoring game. I do think Denver covers the number, though.
Let's slide in one more before we're out of time with you, Sia, and that's the Steelers at the Bengals. Big divisional matchup, obviously, and this one, it interests me for a variety of reasons. 3-point spread. Cincinnati, the home team, is the favorite. We know how bad the defense is. We know what the offense is capable of. I look at this game, I want, and I think it's partially motivated by the fact that I have a futures ticket on Cincinnati to, represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I want to lay the points with the Bengals, who are fighting for their season here. But here comes that Mike Tomlin record as an underdog against the spread stat. Where do we go here?
I think 3 points is too much. So I probably would be on the Pittsburgh Steelers here. I do think Cincinnati manages to win this game. This one's really tough because I still don't know how good Pittsburgh is. But you take however good Pittsburgh is, and you take what you just mentioned about Mike Tomlin, road underdog, division game, it just doesn't bode well for Cincinnati, who can struggle to cover the spread here. So I'd have to take the Steelers. This one is a stay away for me, though.
All right, very good. Well, I think we're about out of time, sadly, with you, Sia, but we really appreciated it over the last half hour. Thanks for hopping on. You can get Sia on Twitter at @TheNajab. Let's do it again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks fellas.
Sia.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why?
because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Back here with you, in-game live college football game day. Great to be with you. Thanks to all of our guests, by the way. We have had Paul Stone, Colby Dant, most recently Sia Najad, and the guests are done in a manner of speaking. Now it is exclusively SportsGrid employees. You will have Brady and I the rest of the way talking through all things NFL, some Circa updates as we get all of that data, and of course, monitoring all things college football, but we couldn't possibly do that without a third voice. And what a voice it is. Casey Hudson, a partner of mine, multiple times a week when we get to hang out on Paul today, joining us here for an update on what has honestly been a very depressing Texas A&M game. Casey, how are you?
That's a grand intro. Thank you. I feel so missed since you ditched us on Pro Football Today all week. No, I'm kidding.
All week.
Everybody needs family time. It's totally fine. We did miss you, though, which means I'm so glad to get to do the halftime report here on Endgame Live. Make this a little less depressing. Let's see. We'll start where the depression potentially started on your end, Adam. Texas versus Texas A&M. We know how crucial this game was. It's rivalry weekend here in college football, and more importantly, Texas on top 17-0 at the half. I mentioned there being some disguise plays. I mentioned them trying to get a little fancy out there for a number of reasons, because all week long it was Quinn Ewers this, ankle injury from last week. He's questionable. Who knows if we're going to see him? All of this speculation raised so many question marks for you to see a Quinn Ewers that looks completely and entirely fine. 142 through the air, 1 touchdown, but on top of that, he's still racking up a number of rush yards. 2 carries, 22 rushing yards. I didn't think this guy was going to move his legs much at all. Granted, sometimes Texas A&M can come in a little bit better with the pressure, but regardless, you're just seeing them have some fun in terms of play calling and how they're executing to pick up those 17 points thus far. One of the best executions of the night, Arch Manning with a rushing touchdown. Yes, a rushing touchdown of 15 yards. That was exciting to watch, and of course, a momentum swing for this Texas team. I know a lot of people want to see that more complete game out of Texas because for the most part, they've kept it a little close sometimes. Defense started to struggle a little bit in these last couple of weeks. Offense wasn't as electric as those first couple of weeks, but regardless, we're seeing a little bit more than anticipated now. The spread adjusting to 20.5, total adjusting to 39.5, something to keep an eye on. They're saying that Texas A&M can come out swinging a little bit more in the second half. They put up 40 points against Auburn last weekend, but I just don't see it. Reed's kind of struggling unless he's using his legs, and Texas has to come out and put together the entire four-quarter performance versus the team so that everybody can stop having so many questions. Now, for another game going on for the halftime report, Kansas State versus Iowa State. This one was interesting because Iowa State opened the scoring. Kansas State responded. Some injuries over on Kansas State, but some of that sluggish play that's just so costly just continues to be ingrained in the game for Kansas State. Right now, they're down 24-14 at halftime versus an Iowa State team that they should have been able to kind of outcompete in a number of ways, but we're talking about a Week 3 Kansas State team that's just not really in the play right now. Then pivoting over to another game, the Heisman candidate, as well as a playoff bracket positioning. Oregon taking on Washington, 28-14, Oregon on top. And this is no surprise here. Dillon Gabriel through the air, 148. Jordan James on the ground. I mean, we talk about a number of these running backs in college football, especially like Boise State's and some of the guys leading in rushes, but we're not talking enough about what Jordan James has done for the Oregon Ducks. I mean, when it's time to rest the arm for Dillon Gabriel, it's this guy who's going to town, and whenever the defense is coming in stoutly, Jordan James has been so tough to stop. 60 on the ground, 2 touchdowns to add to the point tally, and then Holden in the air helping out his quarterback with 73 through the air through 3 receptions. So Oregon continuing to stay strong in that sense. Kansas State going to see what they can do on the other half. Texas got to come out and continue to put together 4 quarters of football and see if they can continue to hold Texas A&M off the board. As for other points adjusting around the way, spread between Washington versus Oregon is 21.5, total sitting at 65.5. Then for Kansas State versus Iowa State, that is adjusted up to 9.5 on the spread, as well as 64.5 on the total. When Iowa State starts getting hot, which they can probably come back on the other side of this and continue to add points, I wouldn't be surprised to see this touch that total whatsoever. And then don't forget to keep a nice close lookout for Houston versus BYU coming up later today. We talked about it on college football today. 2 Cougars going against one another. Houston's defense sometimes surprisingly stout, sometimes surprisingly strong, but BYU has a bigger point to prove after falling short last weekend. Reslaf, I expect to have a pretty big game through the air, seeing as how Houston lets up a lot of air yardage. And then when it comes to other games that you want to look at, when it comes to the point spread and scores, let's just say, keep an eye on Resclaff's numbers for passing yards. He's averaging about 218. He's sitting at 220 in the prop market. I think he can hit over that after coming off a 297 performance versus the Sun Devils. So for everything going on around college football right now, that's a wrap for me. I'm going to throw it back to Adam and Brady as they get you situated for all the excitement that's hopefully coming on the other side of halftime. I promise you, Texas versus Texas A&M is just going to get that much more exciting, Adam. Arch Manning for another touchdown. Why not?
As long as it's a rushing, I see. If Brady, I don't know how regularly you're watching pro football today, but I half expected Casey to be like, I think Arch Manning with a rushing touchdown specifically in the 4th quarter. That's what you're going to see. It's a niche market. It's a niche market, but she's ready to give it to you. Casey, thanks so much. Hopefully it was a great holiday. I would say holiday break, but I know you didn't take much of a break. So on to continuing to work hard this week. And yes, I look forward to seeing you on Pro Football today. But Brady and I, we've got you for the next, let's see, a little less than 90 minutes. And we've touched on, Brady, a good number of the football games. I happen to know we have not done all of them because, well, for anyone watching and can see my backdrop, Boston skyline here, we haven't talked Patriots Colts, so that's on the list of games that we can get to when we break them all down, the two of us. You know, it's always good to get our guests' input and see a lot of great expertise, obviously, but you and I, we will share our thoughts and how we intend to bet these games and also continue to check in on these college contests as well. And Circa Survivor, Circa Millions, all of it, looking forward to seeing what all of the data says. I'm just checking right here to see if we have we do. Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, everything is up. So let's start the process of diving in a little bit. Circa Survivor. So again, 4 live entries, much as it was going into week 13A. This is 13B. Everybody survived Thursday and Black Friday. Implied value per entry, by the way, is now north of $250,000. So that is impressive in and of itself with a $1,000 buy-in. The most popular plays this week, again, this is simply survive in advance. Money line wins. Don't care at all about the spreads. The 4 most popular, all in double figures. Commanders lead the way with 13 picks. And then the Bucks, Bills, Broncos, 11 apiece. After that, you have single entries, 2 for the Vikings, 2 for the Bengals, 2 for the Colts, 1 for the Rams, 1 for the Texans. That is the complete list. What's your main takeaway here?
Well, first of all, the Texans is very interesting. One bold selection there, a road team, a road favorite, a team that will also be playing on Christmas when we do this exercise all over again. If we still have some survivors alive at that point, where we have that 2 weeks within one, the 13A and 13B will be 17A and 17B. The Texans will be hosting the Ravens on Christmas. You also have the Chiefs at the Steelers, and then the Seahawks at the Bears. So that is a very tough week if we make it that far. So interesting that somebody has already used the Texans here. The top four, I think, are very interesting. The Commanders with 13 selections out of 54 entries remaining. We talked about that game with Sia. He and I both kind of lean to the Titans here with the points. And that's always a risky business right there when you've got a game where you kind of like the one side with the points, but you think the other side might win outright. You know, I've been burned by that before in Survivor contests. The Buccaneers for the second week in a row, almost a touchdown favorite on the road. 11 people on them. The Bills is probably, I would say the Bills and the Broncos are the ones I'm most confident with of that top four, Adam.
We'll continue to explore, look at these, look at the most popular selections across the week in Circa Millions as well, especially because Brady is in that contest. I don't know where he went with his big five. We'll talk about all of it and start to preview these games. Just the two of us as well. In-game live college football game day continues here.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like and be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Back with Brady, I am Adam. Hi, good to see you. We're talking Circa Survivor, Circa Millions. We'll get into previewing these games one by one as well. Busy slate in the NFL tomorrow. Not as busy as normal, but busy nonetheless with every team in action over the course of this week with the Thanksgiving holiday. No bye weeks in the NFL. So as mentioned, about a quarter of, pretty close to it anyway, about a quarter of the remaining entries on the Commanders, and then 20% a piece for the Buccaneers, Bills, Broncos, and then, you know, you have some sprinkled in entries for the Vikings, Bengals, Colts, Rams, Texans. Now, you were just saying, Brady, the entries that you are personally probably most confident in are the Bills and the Broncos. I get it with the Broncos. And honestly, I am probably higher on the Commanders this week than you are and then Sia. And I like the Bucks quite a bit as well. The Bills make me nervous. And I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, I think they're going to lose. I mean, I'm not going to be at all surprised if those 11 people are feeling great and Buffalo goes and wins the game. I just think that in general, when you have a talented team, which despite their record, the Niners are, and desperation comes into play, and this is, we're not quite win it for your season mode, but we're getting awfully damn close. It really kind of depends on what other teams in that NFC West do around San Francisco as much as what the Niners themselves do. It's the only reason this division continues to be a dogfight. But when it's a little narrative street, maybe it's a lot narrative street, but when desperation comes into play and you have a good team, or at least the talent of a good team without the results of a good team, I get a little nervous, when I'm chasing $14 million. Not that I have been in that boat and I can imagine what that would be like, but if I'm trying to transplant myself into these people's minds and bodies, Buffalo is not a team I would want to be investing in this week.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. I mean, the wise guys typically bet the 49ers every week because of exactly what you're saying. They're probably, or they appear to be a little bit undervalued because they do have a ton of talent. Well, a lot of that talent is injured. Trent Williams is out for this game. Nick Bosa is out for this game. We know George Kittle's been banged up. Brock Purdy's banged up. Now he's listed as probable. I think he will play and get the start. Maybe the most important of all those pieces that is injured is Trent Williams, the all-pro, all-world left tackle. I think it really puts a chink in the Niners' armor when he is not in the game. McCaffrey really hasn't been himself. Now, the Bills' defense, they are susceptible to the run. So maybe this is a get-right spot for Christian McCaffrey in that 49er running game. But I just think, traveling to Buffalo, the weather, I also think, Adam, the Niners just aren't that good. I think they're done. I think the Super Bowl loser hangover has been a brutal one and a long one. And I think it probably continues here. Am I going to run to the window and bet Buffalo to cover the number? No, but I think they will win this game. It's also perfect timing for Buffalo to have had a bye week after beating Kansas City. This would absolutely be a letdown spot for the Bills if it was immediately following their win over the Chiefs. But they were able to kind of avoid that with a bye week. So, they're probably feeling a little bit fat and happy, but they were able to kind of maybe temper that with time passed for the week off. So I think that's a good situation for Buffalo, the fact that they had a bye rather than playing immediately the next week off of that huge win, kind of slaying their dragon in the Kansas City Chiefs. We've talked about the Broncos. We know we feel pretty comfortable with them winning that game. But, the desperation for the 49ers, do you want to also in the same breath call this a must win? Because if we're going to term it as a must win, I always say if a team's in a must win situation, they must not be that good. Otherwise, if they were good, they wouldn't be in a must win situation. I don't think the 49ers are that good. I believe they're below 500, aren't they? I think this is a good spot for the Bill. I hear you loud and clear. I mean, none of these games you feel really thrilled about when you're playing for 14.2, right? But I understand your trepidation with Buffalo for sure, but I think they find a way to get it done. Again, against the spread, no, but I'll take them straight up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a hell of a lot better about, again, Commanders, Bucks, Broncos, even to some degree, Rams, Texans. But, I look at teams like, I don't know that you know either, but if any of the remaining 54 entries are represented, multiple entries by the same investor, the same person, because I can't think of any other reason, short of I've already used all those top four or something earlier in the season, why anyone would go anywhere near, in particular, the Vikings and the Bengals this week. I mean, two teams that, I think will probably win, at least in like if I'm investing, but I could easily see them losing, easily. Cardinals and Steelers on the other side. I mean, that's, again, you're seeing 2 entries apiece on these 2 teams for a reason, obviously, and that is differentiation and maybe trying to outsmart the field, but you can outsmart yourself in the process.
Yeah, I would have to guess that these are representative of people or what have you that have multiple entries remaining. And they've maybe put one on a safer play, like the Commanders, the Bills, the Broncos, what have you. And then they've put one on a riskier play in hoping that there will be carnage. Okay. And boy, I mean, you almost got there with that philosophy with the Kansas City Chiefs last week. We were almost down to 25 people or 25 entries left in this contest, just like that, if that Raiders game hadn't gone the way it did in the very end there. So, yeah, I think that's probably a strategy that you throw one on a riskier play, like Texans, Rams, what have you. And if you've got 2 entries, the other thing is, you probably don't really, if you've got 2 entries left or maybe more, you probably don't want to push them all in on one team because you can be gone just like that. I think it's maybe a little wiser to split them up.
For sure. I would just probably split them up in 2 more comfortable spots as opposed to the quote unquote risky spot. That's just me. But again, I'm not in these people's shoes. They are for a reason. We'll talk a little circa millions on the other side as well. And again, start to deep dive game by game in the hour plus that we have left here on In-Game Live College Football Game Day.
Guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim to make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Back with Brady Kannon, In-Game Live College Football Game Day, and some of the top 25 games across college football going on. Indiana is just curb stomping Purdue, 45-0, and that is still early in the 4th quarter. So comfortably on the way to covering, albeit a gigantic number, no problem there. And Indiana, oh, by the way, is practically in the red zone again. Oregon doubling up Washington mid-third, and at the Huskies 18 right now. So in the red zone looking for more. Yeah, there's another Indiana touchdown. It's amazing. Hoosiers are about to be up 52-0 after the extra point. Texas still shutting out Texas A&M 17-0 the third quarter, couple minutes in. A&M has the ball. Kansas State with the ball, down by 10 at Iowa State. UNLV, second half just underway, still with a 24-7 advantage at against Nevada. And it is Nevada with the ball to open that third quarter. Houston BYU still the kickoff. That one is about 20 minutes away. We'll check in on some of the other scores outside of the top 25 as well in a little bit. But right now we're talking through some NFL and Circa Millions. So Brady, you are part of this contest. Be curious to know where you decide to go. And you've talked about this before, but for anyone that doesn't know how this contest works, fixed lines, so it doesn't matter where the lines are right now. For instance, it's at the time of close of the contest and needing to get your entries in and when they lock, and I think you said they lock on Wednesday, right? And so at that point in time, then you need to make your decisions, and obviously if you do it in advance of the Thursday game, you need to put in your full card at that point in time versus waiting for the weekend. Your most popular plays, your top 5 consensus plays in Circa Millions this week are largely plays that did not get ahead of it on Thursday, at least I'm guessing anyway. Cardinals plus 3.5 at the Vikings. Seahawks minus 1.5 at the Jets. The Bucks 5.5 point favorites at the Panthers. Rams minus 2.5 at the Saints. And then all the way to Monday night, Broncos minus 5.5 at home against the Browns. How do you feel about this group, and how many of them were on your card?
Well, I tell you, I think it's a very peculiar top 5 this week. And I think it is partially because of the amount of games, prior to Sunday. 3 Thursday games and a Friday game. And it's typically a rule of mine that we never play a Thursday game. We did break that rule this week. We did put in a Thursday game, but you mentioned it, Adam, when you play a Thursday game, whether it be Thanksgiving or any other regular Thursday game, you have to submit your entire card of all 5 selections. So, when you're thinking, let's say, midday Thursday, Wednesday evening or whatever, and you're trying to decide, okay, maybe you love one of these, maybe you love the Bears to cover against the Lions, but do you really have conviction about 4 other selections that are going to take place when you're submitting this on Wednesday evening or Thursday morning? That's very early in the week, right? So, we did our Las Vegas football contest show on Wednesday this week because we wanted to get people information about the Thursday and Friday games and what have you. And we landed on the Packers successfully. So we turned in our card early. And as it turns out, we have some selections that, I kind of still like. Here we are on Saturday evening. With the Las Vegas football contest show, I mentioned the Packers. They were -3 in the contest, so that one is a winner. We took the Jaguars. Now, they are +5 in the Westgate Super Contest, +4.5, as you see on Circa. So that number is about a point or a 1.5 different in the live market versus what it was in the contest. The Steelers, we took Steelers in the Circa Sports Million where they are getting that full 3. We have seen some 2.5s in the market. We took the Eagles getting that full 3. We've seen some weak 3s, and as Sia Najad said earlier, even some 2.5 starting to pop on that game. And then we did fall on the Denver Broncos. So we do come up with one of the 5 consensus selections there with the Broncos. But the others were 3 games that I expected to be popular because, typically people in these contests, Adam, gravitate towards the games where you have line value in the contest versus what the live market is dealing. And the Jaguars, the Steelers, and the Eagles, there's value in the contest numbers versus what the live market currently has.
Much more on the NFL, obviously, with Brady. It's the 2 of us the rest of the way. We've had so many fun voices taking part in this program, but we got a lot of NFL to get into as we explore these games. Busy Sunday, handing out best bets the rate that we have or intend to bet games. Final hour, in-game live college football game day is on the way here on SportsGrid.